very, very personal, okay? She was pregnant 9 months, and he goes down to visit the kids from the estranged wife on Thanksgiving Day. She refuses to let him in the house to see the kids. She lives right next door to her father. He comes out and tells Larry to leave. Larry goes out to the parking lot, gets a gun out of the car, and shoots himself in the back of the head on Thanksgiving Day. So, it's a silent war that we fight daily. I fight it myself even sometimes because of my physical pain and the things that I deal with, mostly physical pain and the fact that my health is deteriorating pretty fast. But I saw a law that Congress had passed or tried to pass for the last 10 years that was calling out for September 30th to be National Suicide Prevention Day. I took that verbiage, I switched it around, I wrote it in my own words as a resolution. I presented it to my staff sergeant right here, friend, U.S. Army, and they pushed it. Josie signed it. It passed unanimously, 100% unanimously in the House and in the Senate across the table. I'm really proud of this myself because it's keeping me alive, damn it. And y'all coming here today, it really makes a difference. And I think that the awareness that I was looking for and the prevention part is going to come from these folks right here. And Laura and the Texas Veterans Commission and those agencies outside there that we've asked the state of Texas to recognize this day and recognize that we're losing 18 to 22 veterans every single day. Right now, while we sit here today, every 80 minutes, okay, a veteran's taking his life. And that's females too. Let's not forget the females. The number is going up because of our females that served in combat and have been affected by this terrible, terrible silent war. Michael, now I introduce my state rep? Mr. Lopez, Sergeant, please. State Representative, District 125, my close friend and my brother, Ray Lopez.
Steve, thank you very much, and thanks for the comments and sharing your story, your personal story. I know that there are other chapters in that story, and you told one. There are others, and I know you and I have sat together and cried together, and you shared them. And I think all of us at one point can add to different books, different chapters, and what it means to us to know that there are, so many things that hurt us hard, bring us down, but there are also things that will bring us up, and that's coming together as brothers and sisters with a common goal, common purpose, and that's to make sure that together that we can move forward and that we don't get pulled down and out by the difficult things that we face. I think all of us can tell us different stories. I don't tell my story very often, this particular chapter of my story very often, but I have just myself and my brother. I had one brother 3 years older than myself. I graduated from high school in 1968. In 1968, for those of you that are old enough to remember, Vietnam was roaring. My brother was 3 years older than I was, and he graduated from high school in 1965, went to Vietnam and came back, and was a typical Vietnam vet, and wore his fatigues, never took them off, always had them on, and 20 some odd years later wound up dying of cirrhosis of the liver at the age of 47. Didn't take a gun, put it to his head, but he drank himself to death. But I tell everybody, he never left Vietnam in his mind. He always was struggling with whatever it was that he saw. He never talked to anybody about it. He never said much about it, but he drank himself to death, literally. And those are the sad stories and the tragedies that are happening every single day. And they don't get counted, by the way. This is not part of the 22. The 22 are the ones that we know about. We get a chance to pass laws. We get a chance to bring attention to many of these things. There are some things, however, that we can't seem to bring attention to. One of the laws that I tried to pass and try to get introduced last session, actually the session before, and again last session, that we didn't get much success under for several reasons, but one of the bills that I tried to introduce was to get in our 254 counties in the state of Texas, if somebody dies, there is someone in that county that's designated as the person that signs the death certificate. Every county has somebody like that. In Bexar County, it happens to be a coroner. There has to be somebody that signs off on it. And Bexar County has a coroner. Not all counties have one, but there is somebody designated. It could be a judge, it could be someone. But somebody has to sign off on that coroner, on that death certificate. And on that death certificate, there are certain things that get designated, whether it was the type of death that it was, and typically was it by accident, was it natural causes, or was it a suicide? We've been trying to get a block to be put on there that said, is it a suicide? And the pushback that we get is that is a difficult determination to make, an expensive determination to make in many cases, because you can't make that determination easily, and in some cases, there's not someone there that can spend the time and effort and money to be able to make that determination. Therefore, we need to find a different way of making, of getting that box checked. Well, that's not what we need to do. We need to find out if it was a determination, because we do find out if they were a veteran. Because the reality is, if they were a veteran, someone is going to be responsible for that veteran's last expenses. Who's going to pay for the casket? Who's going to pay for that? So by virtue of checking that off, people can go and claim some repayment for the last cost of that individual. Well, why aren't we doing the same thing for determining whether it was a suicide? Because that is the only way we're going to find out if the initiatives that we're putting together at the state level and even at the national level to be able to set aside and to be able to slow down, to be able to eliminate suicide is working, to be able to find out and measure those things that we are trying to affect. If we know that we are lowering the number, and that's why this particular bill is a 10-year bill, to find out, are we able to measure the number of suicides, and are we able to lower it? And if we are lowering it, then we know we're working in the right way. And if it isn't being lowered, then we need to do other things. That is the only way we're going to be able to make a difference and be able to save our brothers and sisters from the catastrophic lives that they're leading, that are leading unfortunate demise by virtue of self destruction. And it isn't only the destruction for their own personal lives, but the families that they leave behind. And for that, we cannot, under any circumstance, allow that to continue to happen. So we continue to do those kinds of things. I'm so proud to be on the Defense of Veterans Affairs, and so proud to be the vice chairman. And I hope that next session that I get a chance to sit on that committee as well. Again, Josie Garcia, who sits on that committee with me, has been a fantastic member of that committee. And by virtue of bringing not only a veteran's perspective, but a woman's perspective, a veteran woman's perspective, is an incredible asset to our community, to our committee. It's a kind of amazing thing. There's 11 of us on that committee. There's only, of the 11, our chairman is a retired colonel, myself, obviously a veteran, and Josie. There's only 3 of us that are veterans. The rest of them are non-veterans. And what it takes oftentimes is for us to go and kind of tell the story from a veteran's perspective to our other members, and they're all willing to listen. But oftentimes, if you're not a veteran, it's a hard it takes a little bit more for you to kind of understand what some of these issues are. And I'll tell you a really good example. I won't tell you the name of the person because I don't want to embarrass them. But very, very first meeting, this individual was a freshman sitting on our committee, and there was a group that came before our committee that was asking for us to consider what the federal government had considered about burn pits, right? That we needed to provide some funding for burn pit support and putting it in a database. And he didn't quite understand what the burn pit problem was, and started to question why we wanted to spend money to purchase these burn pits for our community, for our soldiers. Why do we want to spend money on burn pits? We shouldn't be doing that just because the federal government did. Why should we be buying these burn pits? And I leaned over to him. I said, listen, bills have to come before us 3 times. This bill, if it comes back before us, which I hope it does, will come again for a second reading and then a third reading. Let's go to my office and let me buy you a cup of coffee and let me explain to you what this is. We're not looking to buy burn pits. Let me explain to you what burn pits are, because he had no idea. This is what we do in the military. We burn the stuff and we don't leave it behind for the enemy. We get rid of it and then we move on to the next location. This has been something that's happened forever and ever and ever. We all do it. And because he had no clue that that's what we did. Once I told him, he says, well, first of all, thank you very much for not letting me make a fool of myself. Because I would have been asking questions. I thought we were wanting to buy burn pits for our soldiers. And I didn't understand why we wanted to do that. Well, that's the problem with not having veterans sitting on Veterans Affairs. And that's the problem. But there's not, that's another big component of what the problem is within our legislature. Of the 150 of us, I don't know how many, but there's not a whole lot of veterans. It's probably representative of the general population. About 10% of the general population is in the military. Not a whole lot, and therefore not a whole lot of people have that firsthand experience on what the issues are. So we've got to change that. We can, and if we can't get more people in the military, then we need to be able to tell the story. So thank you very much for being here. I know you're interested in it. We need to continue telling the story. It's incredibly important that we do. And I think once we tell that story, we'll get so many more people, understanding what it is and, joining us in that battle of making sure that we not only help our veterans and avoid the situation that creates suicide, but also going out and helping the families and all the individuals that are affected directly and indirectly by virtue of military service. So thank you very much for being here, and thank you. You present the slide now?
No, but we'll have to do that after we're done. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Josie, our next state representative, I've gotten real close to Josie over the last year and a half. Since she was elected, we're close as veterans #1, but as the freshmen on the panel, I've gotten close to her because I speak to all of them, both sides of the house when I go up to the house. So I spend time in the Republican side and the Democratic side of the house. But I try to protect these people in those seats because of the value that they have of the vote in the House. Okay, so 11 seats, 11 votes that we can pass legislation through the House. That's only 11 out of the 150. But to have these 2 voices coming out of Bexar County and have them representing us here in Bexar County is a loud voice at the Capitol. Okay, so Josie, Air Force retired, has been the female, as Ray said, with the loudest voice in the House this last session. She was recognized, okay, as the freshman of the year and the legislative champion in my heart of the year for passing and sponsoring a whole bunch of legislation. Vanessa Guillen Day, which is next week, by the way. She's going to Houston to celebrate that with the family of Vanessa Guillen on her birthday in Houston. So we're going to pick up the load here in San Antonio and try to do something for Vanessa. But she passed that law amongst others and stood right next to Ray on sponsoring those bills. So without any further ado, State Representative Josie Garcia.
Thank you all so much. I just want to take a moment to recognize Senator Menendez, who's here with us in the crowd. Senator Menendez is a longtime staple of Bexar County politics and Military City, USA. He really gets what it is to support our veterans, and on behalf of us military folks that call you our senator, thank you so much, sir, for everything that you do for us to be our battle buddy on the ground. This day is hard for a lot of us. Thank you to all the veterans who are in the crowd. When we think about what this day means to us, I can pretty much guarantee that each and every one of us knows somebody, loves somebody who can be counted in that one of 22. I'm a proud Air Force Operation Iraqi Freedom Combat veteran, proud wife of Army Infantry, Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Purple Heart veteran. He's my own personal hero because you'll never hear him talk about his service. He's one of those people that gave everything, literally, and was ready to give their life for their country. And that's the one thing that we bring to the House of Representatives. 150 members, and as Representative Lopez said, there's only a handful of us that have served in the military. So when we come and we tell them why things are important to us, we have to really bare our souls sometimes, right? We have to be those messengers that are carrying on the real fight. We have to share those stories about our brother who lost his life because he could find his only peace in a bottle. We talk about my cousin, who was an Army tanker, who 3 years ago lost his battle. We talk about 22 a day, but what does 22 a day really mean? 22 a day means is that sometimes we're given missions, and as young as 17 years old, I remember I was 16 when I joined the military on delayed enlistment. I wasn't even out of high school yet, but I knew that I wanted to give my life for my country. Let's think about what that commitment really means. It means that we understand that we will be put in a position to give our life for our country. And we're okay with that because some of us are crazy enough to re-enlist every session, right? Some of us re-enlist 2 or 3 times and get sent to places where not only are you the only woman, but you know what the culture does to women. Because you've seen videos of what would happen to women soldiers as they were captured. And so as a woman soldier, you're not afraid. You're very empowered, and you get this "I wish they would" mentality. But people don't really understand what it means when "I wish they would" means that I'll get myself before you get me. I walked around every day unafraid with a bullet in the chamber, always rounded in the chamber. And that bullet in the chamber wasn't for my enemy because I knew I was outnumbered. That bullet in the chamber was for me because I wouldn't allow my children to see what I saw on Al Jazeera. Now, when you come home from something like that, you're so excited to be back. But something happens and it's you over-prepare to die. I learned that very hard. I learned that very hard as the military worked their best to help me with pharmaceuticals that were legal, but pharmaceuticals that didn't translate to civilian world. Because when I sought out those same pharmaceuticals from a civilian provider, I was treated like a drug addict. I was treated like somebody who, oh, you should know better. When all I wanted to do was know how to cope in a world that I had already checked out from. I suffered from agoraphobia, the fear of the outside, for 4 years of my life. I call that my darkness. Why? Because every day I prayed that it would be my last. I called that suicide by proxy because I would never do it to myself. Because I have children who need me. Because I'm an airman. I'm harder than that. I'm better than that. I'm a fighter. I serve and protect. But when nobody could serve and protect me, I found my way out of the darkness through the bottle. A bottle I could go to any store and pay $10 for. I almost lost my life. And breaking the silence means no longer being afraid to tell you that that happened to me. To no longer be ashamed to express to you that I truly understand what it is. And to tell you I don't know why I'm here today. I promise you that I will serve